Nova 8264 here. Wanted to put out a little information on some of the equipment that I use as far as cameras go. Maybe how you mount those cameras, either to your mask or to your gun itself. There's several mounting systems out there. I'm just going to show you some of the ones that I use, as well as the cameras that I use now. So with that, we'll get right into it. Alright everybody, let me show you the cameras that I'm using. This is the camera that I've been using out on the field. Needs cleaned up a little bit, but it is as you can see, a Ion Air Pro 3. It also is Wi-Fi. On the back here is a little Wi-Fi pod that unscrews, pulls off, and it sends the Wi-Fi signal through. Just activate it here. Back here you have your SD slots, your charging slot, full HD and HD. This is 1080p up to 120 frames per second, which is pretty decent. It also has a jack for a mic there. This pod, when you put it on and you twist it, it locks on. It also waterproofs the back. So this is waterproof up to, I believe it's 1 meter. I'm sorry, 10 meters, 33 feet for us here in the States. But really easy to use. My kitty here is trying to get into the act, so if you hear or see some crazy stuff, that's my kitty there. She's been trying to chase the birds outside. But anyway, it's very easy. You can press this button and hold it down and it will come on. Or a feature that's really nice is simply slide this little slider right here forward, and that is the record button, and it, as you see, lit up. It vibrates also, so you know that it's on, and now it's recording. Go ahead and stop the recording. You press the button down and hold it for a few seconds, and it'll vibrate and then go off. Okay. Real nice thick front lens here. I've taken a few shots there. As you can see on the camera, it's very sturdy. It's all metal. This right here has got a little bit of almost like a rubbery feel to it, even though it is metal. But I like the barrel look to it. It fits right onto the barrel here. Real nice on the gun. Real easy, and I'll show you how I mount that here in a second. But real good camera. As I mentioned, may have mentioned before, it cost me about half what a GoPro at the time a few years ago cost. And the video quality was almost as good as a GoPro. I say almost. GoPro's contrast and all was tended to be a bit better right out of the box. Back then, a few years ago, I wasn't doing any post editing. In other words, taking it and putting it onto the video into a video editing software to color correct and all that. But here lately, I've decided to try and do some of that to take some of that blandness out that we see out there on the fields, and a lot of that's caused because in the middle of the day, the sun's shining, it washes everything out. But anyway, Ion Air Pro 3, if you find one, if you're looking for a good camera at a low cost, you can go online and find them at ion.com, or find them on eBay. As a matter of fact, I found this on eBay brand new in the box for, I think it was about $100 less than what it was going for normally at your retail store. So Ion Air Pro 3 is the camera I'm currently using, or was using. But if you notice my first video in the unboxing of my G-Tech, my camera stopped, the one I'm using right now, for, I don't know, some unexplained reason. So anyway, that made me think I need to upgrade, and I thought, well, let me upgrade to something 4K. And so I went and got the GoPro Hero 6 Black, which is exactly like the Hero 5 black in the outside. Inside is where the differences are. They've got a new chip, their GP1 chip they call it, and that GP1 chip really has helped them step their game up, so to speak. The saturation, your colors and stuff like that. I was mentioning post-edit, editing, putting your video into a video editing software and color correcting stuff like that. This camera right out of the box does a lot of that for you. The saturations, the contrast, and the colors really pop. So it really takes a lot of that work out of it after you've already got the video, and really just makes it quicker for you to get it onto any social media site that you want to get it to. It has 2 Wi-Fi bands, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz to make it quicker to download to your phones, your tablets, what have you, again, to make it easier and quicker to get it out to your social media sites, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. Excuse me. The thing about this is the biggest difference inside, besides the chip, is than the GoPro 5 is it has 4K, which the GoPro 5 had 4K at 30 frames per second. This one is 4K at 60 frames per second. So you really can take and put it into your video editing software and slow it down and still maintain that video quality. It also has 1080p at 240 frames per second. And I think the 5 was only 1080p at 120 frames per second. So if you want to get a slow-mo shot, slow the video down at 1080p at 240 frames per second, gives you a lot of leeway into slowing that video down and really smoothing it out and not jittery, so to speak, almost a stutter look to it. So that's really nice. The way it turns on is you can turn it on here. Full disclosure, this is actually the second GoPro Hero 6 that I had a couple weeks ago. I got one, and in the middle of doing an unboxing of it, it died, and it wouldn't come back on. It wouldn't charge. So I went online and looked. They've had a couple issues here and there. Everybody puts out a limit every once in a while. So I took it back and got another one, and this one works just fine. One of the features that I really like on it is voice command. As you can see, it is on. GoPro, turn off. Boom. GoPro, turn on. There we go, voice command. And you can also use voice commands to tell it to do things such as recording whatever you want to record. The other day I took it to work and I did a time-lapse video of the sun rising. It was real easy. Your menu on the back here is real easy. Hope you can see this here. Right here it says 4K is the resolution, 60 frames per second, and it's in wide field of view. And that's basically the only field of view you're going to get at 4K 60 frames per second. But we can go, just tap right here, 4K. You can change the frames per second. You can also change to 2.7K, but you've got 1440, 1080, and 720. Let's just say we're going to switch to 1080, and I want to change the frames per second. It's set on 60. Let's say I want to be 120. Boom, it's 120. Let's say I want to go back and change that to 240. Just tap it, and it'll tell you that to play back this resolution, your photo or computer must support HEVC. So that brings us back to another thing, the codecs that you use in your video editing software. 624 is pretty much normal across the board now for your high resolution. They come up with a HEVC, and it's just basically a different encoder of 625. Is something that is not as widespread out there right now, but it is if you're using video software like Adobe Premiere Pro. It's also important when you're trying to download that to your phone or your tablet. I just upgraded. I waited a long time. Just wanted all the bugs to be worked out. of the iOS system. So I just upgraded yesterday to iOS 11 point whatever it is right now. And the reason why I waited so long is because of my drone. I have a Mavic Pro that has a 4K camera to it, and I've read some horror stories online where people they updated to the newest firmware and their drone flew away. There's a lot of stuff to that which I'm not going to get into, but I updated that firmware also, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. But anyway, so the codec, the 625, is important that whatever you're downloading it, what your mobile device is able to support that HEVC. Just check it out online if you decide to buy a GoPro Hero 6, which I would encourage you to. It's really nice. Your menu here, for your white balance, your exposure, your shutter speed, so on and so forth. Those things are important when you're videoing, especially the time of day. A lot of times we're out there in the middle of the day, the sun's blasting out, and it washes your video out. You can compensate some of that right here in the format that you're shooting in, whether you're shooting in RAW, or they have, if you're familiar with GoPro, excuse me, they have their Pro Tune setting, and I would suggest that you, if you're not wanting to do any post editing of your video, set it to Pro Tune. If you don't mind doing some post editing of your video, then shoot it in the RAW format, and you can go in there and you can tweak your colors and stuff and really make those pop out there. But that setting's there. Also, video stabilization. I watched some videos, you can do it yourself. Some of these people, mountain bikers especially, they mount it to their handlebars, and they're riding these trails and they're bouncing around and everything, and some of this video just looks buttery smooth with the stabilization. Now you can't use you can't take advantage of the full stabilization in every format that it videos the resolution, such as 4K 60 frames per second. It does not have it, but at 4K 30 frames per second it does have it. So just be aware of that if you decide that the stabilization is one of the big reasons why you decide to invest in this product, and make sure you do your research on that. Excuse me. Swiping your auto low light. I've had this in as I said, I took it to work the other day. When I get to work, it's dark, and it did pretty good. I know a lot of cameras companies, they boast, we've enhanced the low light, this, that, and the other, and it's really not that great. This one is a step up. It's definitely a step up from the Hero 5. Some people may say, well, that's not really saying much. This is my first GoPro ever, so I really can't speak to that. All I can say is I was pretty satisfied with it, and since I mainly got it for paintball, that's not going to be an issue, because I don't do too much of the city